get this started and I'll try to. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Rock Fantasy YouTube channel, the Rock Fantasy Files. And got a whole bunch of people on tonight. And I'm your host, Stephen Keeler. Tonight, we set the time machine back to 1987 again, once again, to revisit another set of albums released that year, celebrating 35 years around the sun in 2022. Tonight, we feature the 13th studio album by Black Sabbath, Eternal Idol. And we're going to go up against, in the Roundtable discussion, the 4th studio album by Dio with Dream Evil. Both bands have gone through some drastic changes since their last releases. Black Sabbath with Dio going, Ian Gillan, Glenn Hughes in the last couple albums. Gone from the band, Ray Gillan filled in on the tour after Glenn Hughes was canned, with Tony Iommi being the only original member left in the band on this album. It featured the debut of Tony Martin on vocals. Current Kiss drummer Eric Singer was on drums. I hope I have all these correct. I'm glad we got a Sabbath expert in the room with John Gaffney. He might say, hey, man, you're saying something wrong about this. But current Kiss drummer Eric Singer was on drums, Bob Daisley on bass, Jeff Nichols on keyboards. And the sleeve credits, Dave Spitz as the bass player, but all parts were done by Bob Daisley. Bev Bevan of ELO did some cymbal overdubs on the Scarlet Pimpernel song. The album was originally to be recorded with Spitz and vocalist Ray Gillan. After Daisley and Singer departed, bassist Dave Spitz returned, and the drummer Bevan was hired for the 87 tour in support of the album. However, soon Spitz and Bevan backed out after learning the Sabbath had booked dates in South Africa during the apartheid crisis. Nichols played bass for that on tour in a few shows before Joe Burt, former Virginia Wolf, was hired as a new bass player. Bevan was replaced by former Clash drummer Terry Chimes and appeared in the music video for The Shining. The bass player was in The Shining video, recalled Martin was some guy we dragged up the street. I can't remember his name, but he looked the part. He said that he was a guitarist, and I always remember him talking about how he was a Red Indian, thus all the turquoise he wore. We never saw him again. The song Nightmare was initially recorded for the third Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Dio also, now moving on to the Dio record, just a couple of things about that, also had some major changes with former Rough Cut members Craig Goldie at guitars and Claude Snell keyboards joining, bassist Jimmy Bain and Vinny Appice on drums. It was to be the last album to feature Vinny Appice until 1993, Strange Highways, and the last to feature Jimmy Bain until 2000, Magica. It's recorded at the Village Recorder in Los Angeles. It was produced by Dio himself. It peaked at number 43 on the Billboard 200. I forgot to rank and see what Eternal Idol peaked at. I'm sorry, but I messed up on that today. But anyhow, we got a full house of people to talk about music tonight, and I think we all need to do that. We got Count Ralphus up in the corner. We've got John Gaffney here. Been a while since he's been back. We got Ovi, although staying up all night over there in Norway. We got Tony Dio from North Carolina. We got Miles from Louisiana. We got Ryan from Final Destination. We got Christian Mariano. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He's back on the channel tonight. We got John McEntee from the Mighty Incantation, and we've got Sasquatch Barth here from Aggression up in Vancouver. So we're a truly international show tonight. So let's talk. We're going to talk about the Black Sabbath Eternal Idol album first. We'll go around, and then we'll loop around and do the Dio album, and we'll pick what album. Like, let's say we're walking in the store in 1987 or even today, and we've only got money to buy one of these records. Which one are we going to take home from the record shop? So that's how we're going to go. I guess we'll kick it off with Count Ralphus, and we'll move over to John and Obi. I'm just going to go on my screen across, and welcome everyone. Let's have some fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
Steve, you forgot to address the sad news today.
Oh, yes, I did forget this. And I didn't mean to forget that. I just got caught in my notes. Of course, today we found out tragically the singer from the Black Dahlia murder, Trevor Scott Strenad, passed away. I got to meet Trevor a couple of times. What a great personality. What a great person. It's just a shocking, tragic news for the metal world, and way too young, gone. And I don't know all the details. We did hear that it was a suicide prevention notes were put up, and what a tragic loss to heavy metal. And my sincere condolences to anyone that knew Trevor, Brian Slagle, and everybody else in Metal Blade. And it's just a great loss, a very energetic front man. And I give them, I love the Black Diamond Murder. I thought they were a great band. And it's just more bad news as we roll through. Thanks for bringing that up, Ralph. Anybody has a memory with him, if someone knew him, wanted to mention it through the show, please do.
I remember seeing them on their first album. They ended up headlining the Loft, a little tiny place, and downstairs was some band playing, and in between the songs you could hear the other band playing who had a sold out show downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And Trevor started this chant saying how the band sucked in between when they stopped playing, and we were all screaming. It was only like 100 people up there, but it was so funny live, and always such a great live band. I've seen them a bunch of times.
Yeah,
really like the album. It's real sad news.
Yeah, the last time I got to see Black Dialer, they were on tour with Suffocation, with Decrepit Birth and Necrot. That was down, I think it was Necrot. It was down in New York City, and actually up at the Chance. That was a really good time. But once again, our condolences go out to everyone in the metal community. Play some Black Dialer Murder in his memory, spin it, blast it. Well, anyhow, Ralph, let's kick this off tonight. Let's talk about Black Sabbath, Eternal Idol.
All right. I got the old cassette. I got the original vinyl. I got to say first off that I think this is a horrible album cover. I hate the logo. If they're going to put a statue on the cover, they should have went with a statue like this. This would have been a lot nicer statue. But,
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an odd album cover. I'd have to agree with that.
So yeah, this album, when it came out, I kind of disappointed in it. It was real cleaned up sounding, but the more I've been listening to it lately, the more it's been growing on me. I'm going to go number 3, The Shining, the album opener, strong opener. Number 2, I'm going with Nightmare. I thought it had a good evil feeling to it. And my number 1 track is the title track, Eternal Idol. It has the most Black Sabbath sound, I can't help but picture Dio singing this album every time I listen to it. I could picture how it would have been different. But I'm gonna give it a rating of a 7. And yeah, that's it for the.
All right. Hey, welcome back, John Gaffney, our resident Black Sabbath expert tonight, who's in the room, our Dio expert. Since Chris Allo's not here tonight, I don't know. I think Chris said he was doing it, but I think he ended up going to see AEW. I bet you anything.
I'm sure we have a lot of Black Sabbath experts in the room here tonight, but
yeah.
This album for me, coming off of Seventh Star is my second least favorite Black Sabbath album. I always felt like Seventh Star was a little too bright. It wasn't dark enough. It wasn't heavy enough for me. I loved all the albums before Seventh Star, Born Again and the Dio albums. So when this album came out, it felt like it was returning to the heavier Black Sabbath, slightly darker Black Sabbath sound that I loved. I do remember feeling confused. This is the era of Black Sabbath where pretty much every couple weeks they had a new member in the band, and it was getting very, very confusing with their history. I remember feeling a little bit cheated in some ways that, Dio was, I wasn't there for the original Ozzy era. When Dio came in, I was like, all right, I'm here for Dio. Let's go. Being a young, naive kid, I thought that Dio would be in the band forever. Dio leaves, Gillan comes in. Now I'm like, all right, let's go. Gillan, he's going to be in the band forever. Gillan leaves. Glenn Hughes comes in. He leaves. And by this point, it was kind of starting to feel like, fool me once, shame on me, or shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. It was getting hard for me to want to invest my heart into the band, because I felt like I kept getting, my heart kept getting torn out after every album when the lineups kept changing. But this did feel like a return to form for me. It's the last 10 out of 10 Black Sabbath album for me that for a rating. It also feels like some of these songs, this is the last Sabbath album where I can say it feels like some of these songs could have been maybe during the Dio era, or they could have been riffs that were held over from earlier in the band. So I liked it for that. I'm a huge Bob Daisley fan. He's one of my favorite bass players. I think he's was an integral part of the Blizzard of Oz band and album, that Diary of a Madman. So I love Bob. It seems like almost everything Bob Daisley gets involved in turns out really great. So he's on here. I love Tony Martin. In fact, I know a lot of people there's the Ray Gillen version of this album. For those who may not know, Ray Gillen, who would later go on to sing with Badlands, he came into the band and pretty much sang this entire album. And Tony Martin was brought in at sort of the last minute, and you can hear the Ray Gillen versions of these songs on the deluxe edition of Eternal Idol. And Tony Martin pretty much comes in and sings it pretty much exactly the way Ray Gillen did. But I actually like Tony Martin better than Ray Gillen. I feel like Tony Martin's voice is a little darker and it fits these songs a little bit better for me. This is also the last Warner Brothers record for Black Sabbath. You know, people often ask, how come I can get the Eternal Idol, I can find the Eternal Idol, but I can't find any of the other Tony Martin stuff? That's because the Eternal Idol was the last Warner Brothers record. They moved on to IRS after this, and those albums are all out of print. But I love this record. I think that there's a ton of great riffs on it. I love The Shining. It's a fantastic opener. The spot where the descending picked chord thing from Iommi, and Martin sings that bells will take their toll. I think that's just great. I absolutely love that. Ancient Warrior, super cool. There's a bunch of great, Tony Iommi has these kind of uplifting but still minor key sounding riffs. You hear that in Hard Life to Love, in Glory Ride. They're just sort of these triumphant style riffs. Nightmare is super cool. Born to Lose. I basically love every song on this. The closing title track, The Eternal Idol, to me sounds like something that could have been on Sabotage, maybe. It's got that weird kind of creepy, heavy, dark vibe to it. So this is an album that I've always loved. It's the last 10 out of 10 Black Sabbath album for me. And it's an album that I return to quite often and always find something to enjoy in it.
Cool. Very well put. Thank you. We're going to travel all the way to the dark night of Norway and invite Obi. Obi, how are you?
I'm pretty good, sir. I'm pretty good. This album, I'm an Aussie Black Sabbath fan, always been, and I've started later years to listen to Dio and Dio Black Sabbath, and I really like that too. But it was I gotta give a shout out to mighty Chris Allo for turning me on to this album, because it's his favorite of the Tony Martin era albums. So I've been listening to it now for the last week or so, and it's a really good album. I must say I like the Ryan Gillan version better, though. I don't know, it sounds rougher. Maybe it's the mix or something, but I really like that version too better, because it's more rough. As for songs, I have Ancient Warrior number 3. I just like that Ancient Egypt style. It's kind of like, it's so mighty and so it's only Tony Iommi can take you that far. And I gotta follow King Ralphus on the rest with Nightmare number 2 and Eternal Idol number 1.
All right.
I think Eternal Idol is what landed Tony Martin's gig with Sabbath, because his performance on that song is the best I've ever heard him sing.
Okay.
And as a rating, I will give it an 8 out of 10, because it's a really good album.
Excellent. Now we're going to move from Norway down to North Carolina. This guy was out rocking and rolling at the M3 festival all weekend. Tony Dio is back. He said he's got a head cold from hanging out, seeing all that 80s metal.
Yeah, in the freezing cold, that's for sure. So yeah, Eternal Idol, great record. It's took a while for me to really get to where I really like it. I remember buying it when it first came out on cassette, and I don't know, it just didn't. I loved The Shining, but the rest of it didn't do a whole lot for me. And I guess that's just where I like John was saying, there was so much change in the band, and you didn't really know who was in the band.
Yeah.
Geezer wasn't around anymore, and so forth. But like I said, over the years, it has really grown on me. I think it's a solid record, and it's probably my favorite with Tony Martin.
Wow.
I will say that I do highly like the Ray Gillen version. I had a bootleg CD of that for years, and I was glad to get a good mix of it when they did the deluxe edition. And it's, I mean, it's a little more raw, kind of like Obi was saying. I enjoy listening to that, but I go with the Tony Martin version overall. My 3 songs, gonna go with Glory Ride, Born to Lose, and of course The Shining, and I would give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay. Thanks.
Mhm.
We're gonna go move over. We're gonna stay in the South. We're gonna move over to Miles, the guy that wrestles alligators once in a while down there. So he's on. The Louisiana boy.
Yeah, so I heard a couple people bring up the deluxe edition. This is the deluxe edition right here. This too is all of Ray Gillen's stuff, all his session work on here, which I really do enjoy. When I was younger and I was really into Black Sabbath, all the older metalheads and stuff, I never heard them bring up the Tony Martin era of Black Sabbath. I've always heard of Born Again and Dio and Ozzy, but finally when I started venturing out and getting into my own stuff, I got into like 7 Star, which I really do like 7 Star, and then I got into the Tony Martin era. And going in before listening to any of his albums before with Tony Martin on them, I was kind of hesitant because I'm a real big Dio fan with Sabbath, and Ozzy's the classic Sabbath lineup. But when I first heard Eternal Idol, which is the first album I heard with Tony Martin on it, I freaking fell in love with this album. This album to me is really well done. Yes, it might be a little bit more polished than the classic Sabbath albums or the ones before it, but I just found myself enjoying all of the songs on here. Really, I enjoy every single song off this album. I love Tony Iommi's riffs on here, but one thing I really do enjoy is his solos on this record. I think they're really, really damn good. Tony Martin as a vocalist, I think he's a damn good vocalist. I think he's really awesome. And the Ray Gillen stuff, I like that also, but like everybody else said, I rather the Tony Martin stuff. I think with Ray Gillen, he sounds like I do enjoy it, but he sounds like he gets the lyrics out a little bit slower than Tony Martin, where Tony Martin sounds like he's confident and he's just getting them out, and he sounds a little bit darker than Ray Gillen. But like I said, I enjoy this album a lot. If I had a gun in my head and had to rank the Sabbath albums, I'm pretty sure I would put this one pretty high. My 3 favorite songs off of here is Lost Forever. I really do like that song.
Yeah.
Number 2, I would put the title track, which is it's the last song on the album, and it's real dark sounding. And it just sounds so awesome. Whenever that song came on and I heard it for the first time, I'm like, oh yeah, this is already going to be a great song. And my favorite song off the album is Hard Life to Love. I really do like the chorus in there with Tony Martin and the guitar riffs on there. I really, really enjoy that song. And really, I thought about pulling a Ralph and tying them all together because I like every song off this record. As far as a rating, I'd give this a 9.5 out of 10. The only reason why it's not getting a solid 10 is just because I would reserve the 10 out of 10 for like my absolute favorite Sabbath albums. And I always go back and forth whether, this one or Headless Cross was my favorite Tony Martin album. But I'm leaning more toward Eternal Idol nowadays.
Hmm.
So 9 out of 10 for me. Awesome album, great album.
Cool. Thanks. All right, we're moving through here. I got a lot of people on tonight, but we're having fun, hopefully. We got Ryan Gavalier from the Vinyl Destination here tonight. And then we'll go to Christian, we'll go to Sasquatch, we'll go to Mr. McEntee, then we'll go right around the bend again.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, I'm a huge Black Sabbath fan. They're one of the more important bands for me as a music fan. I've been into them. I've been into Ozzy. I've been into Dio for as long as I can remember. My dad got me into them at a really young age, like before my teenage years.
Mhm.
And I just love all this stuff. And I've always defended the Tony Martin years. I really like them a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think they're quite as good as the Ozzy years, for me, obviously, or even the Dio years. But he's like, I do think technically he might be the best vocalist Black Sabbath has ever had in terms of range and versatility singing wise. And I think there's a lot of good material from that era too. This album, I think, is pretty strong. I think there's some tracks I'm not huge on, but for the most part, I really like it. I think that there's some good heavy stuff on it. There's some evil sounding stuff. I think the only songs that I'm not really crazy about would be like Born to Lose. I'm not huge on. And then the instrumental, I'm not huge on, Scarlet Pimpernel. But other than that, I really like everything. My top 3 songs I have for this album, at number 3, I have Glory Ride. I think that's a pretty cool song. It kind of has like a power metal type of feel to it. Number 2, I have Ancient Warrior, another really neat song, kind of in that kind of territory. And then my number 1 is going to be Eternal Idol. When it comes to 80s Black Sabbath songs, that might be my favorite track from that whole decade. I think that Tony Martin's vocal performance on it is chilling. He definitely shows that he has the best range of any Black Sabbath vocalist, because he goes from that kind of like mid-range type of more gentle vocal performance of like the verses and stuff to those crazy high-pitched screams. And he does it really smooth too. It sounds a lot more effortless than when Ozzy or try to do those super high pitched type scream things. So I really appreciate with that. And I think the riff's fantastic. It's probably the most Black Sabbath song or Black Sabbath sounding song that we've gotten in the 80s, next to a few things on Mob Rules, because I think that there's some very Black Sabbath sounding stuff on that album too.
Of course.
If I'm gonna rate this album, I would say probably like a 7.5 out of 10. I reserve 10 out of 10 for some other albums and some other higher ratings, but I think it's super strong, and I think there's a lot to love on all the Tony Martin era albums.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Nice.
Move over to Christian. How are you doing tonight, brother?
Doing very well. Thanks for having me on again. So, when this album came out back in 1987, I was in kindergarten, so I wasn't even, thinking of heavy metal at that point.
I wasn't even born.
I was.
I always get jealous hearing about, the shows everyone went to back then and everything, but,
I'll trade you for age.
Here I was born. So anyway, I started getting into Sabbath in the 90s. The first CD I actually got was the Nativity in Black, the tribute. And, I like that. And I want to hear the original songs because I knew the hits, Paranoid, Iron Man and whatnot, but I want to hear these other Children of the Grave and all that. So then I got the greatest hits from there. And then it was just full on from that moment. They became my favorite band. I got all the Ozzy era albums. And I was also at the time starting to collect vinyl too, and I was always looking for Black Sabbath records anywhere I went, and I never found any. But the first one I finally found was Heaven and Hell, and at that point, I didn't even know who Dio was, because again, at that time period, you know, you never heard Dio on the radio or MTV or any of that.
Mm.
So then I got into that, and then I went to it was one of those record shows where they used to sell, you know, bootleg VHS and all that.
Yeah.
I got a bootleg of it was like a compilation of different like Black Sabbath videos. It had the Don Kirshner's rock concert appearance. It had, I think, the videos for like Neon Nights and some of the Born Again stuff. And then it had the video for the No Stranger to Love off of Seven Star. And I heard that, I'm like, this sucks. I hated it. And that kind of kept me from digging any deeper into any other, you know, Black Sabbath albums that didn't have Ozzy or Dio on it.
Yeah.
And, you know, fast forward several years later, I'm like, you know, I consider Black Sabbath my favorite band, but there's this whole bunch of albums I never listened to. So I finally, you know, gave Seven Star a chance. I'm like, you know what, this is actually pretty good. And then, you know, get into the Eternal Idol, and, you know, right away, The Shining is just killer opening track. It's, and to me, it's hard. I mean, it does sound very much of its time, but it also very much harkens back to kind of a more traditional Black Sabbath sound, as opposed to Seven Star, which was supposed to be, I guess, Tony's solo album.
Yes.
But you know, you look at like a lot of those albums in the 70s always had these kind of instrumental type, you know, tracks on it. Like Laguna Sunrise as an example. You know, here you got Scarlet Pimpernel, which is kind of like almost like an 80s version of that, I guess you could say. But I don't think there's a weak song on the album. But if I'm going to go for my three favorites, number 3, I'm going with Glory Ride. I just think it's a great track.
Yep.
Number 2, got to go with the title track, Eternal Idol. Probably the most evil sounding song they did, other than, you know, their, you know, from the first record, Black Sabbath. And number 1, the song that hooked me on this one right away, got to go with The Shining.
Excellent.
I would say of the Tony Martin era albums, I think I like Headless Cross just a little bit better, but not much. This one like bumps up right behind that. If I were to give it like a 1 to 10 rating, I would say this is like a solid, I would say solid 7 or 7.5.
Okay,
I mean,
great.
I do like it a lot. I mean, there's other, you know, I do like other Sabbath records better than this one, but it's pretty damn good. So
cool. Thanks for your time. Let's move over to Vancouver, and then we're going to go over to McAtee, get my 2 cents, and we'll try to blast through the Dio portion here. Sasquatch, welcome back.
What's up, buddy?
Good to see you again.
Yeah,
Sasquatch is actually outside.
Yes, I'm pretty much in the woods. Which is where a Sasquatch should be, right?
That's what Bigfoot usually is. Yeah.
Fuck, I got so much to say, but I'm gonna try to be fast because this is gonna be another 2-hour marathon, and I can't do it. But
so what you gotta say?
Like, I think like at this point, you know, like I was always like whatever, like, you know, as the name Tony Iommi of Black Sabbath, I would just buy it. So I bought like Eternal Idol when it came out. And I always like thought that like Tony Iommi probably was like Richie Blackmore's #1 fan, because you go and get Dio, then you go and get Gillan, then you go and get Glenn Hughes, right? So then I'm thinking like, okay, what's next? Are we gonna get like Cloverdale or like Jolene Turner? Like what's happening next, right? But you got Tony Martin, and I think like Tony Martin is probably like Tony Iommi felt like he was stuck with Ozzy for all those years, with a guy who didn't have like that, you know, like opera voice. And he's like, okay, I'm going to get a great singer. And I think like Tony Martin's an amazing singer. I really like Eternal Idol when I bought it. I didn't like Seven Star as much. I was disappointed with that. I thought like that combination of Glenn Hughes and like Tony Iommi would be stronger. I was hoping like Burn meets like fucking Master of Reality. So disappointed. But I did like the song Seven Star. But I think at Eternal Idol, and the other thing that I noticed is there was a change in like Tony Iommi's guitar playing. So Yeah, all the way to Never Say Die. He had a style of how to play. Neon, like on Evan and I don't know what happened, but he completely changed the way he was playing guitar to the point that it didn't sound like Black Sabbath anymore. It was almost better. And then he goes and this one sounds more to me like a bit like LA, more like riffing the way that he was playing. But it worked. I know at that time, I think he was like dating Lita Ford or hanging out with her around that time and spending a lot of time in Los Angeles listening to like Rat and all those bands. So you can hear it in the phrasing of the riffs, especially like Lost Forever and Our Life to Love. There's that like there's almost that vibe like glam a bit in it. Fun fact about this album, because I always have a fun fact. At one of my weddings, I got married many times. I don't remember which one. My bride at the time did walk down the aisle while Scarlet Pimpernel was playing.
Wow.
And I was laughing when Ryan was saying like he didn't like that song. That's actually at one of my weddings playing while the favorite song, I would go with number 3, Lost Forever. I love that riff. Number 2, Hard Life to Love. And then number 1 by far, Eternal Idol. What a fucking song. It's just like, it's so majestic. Like, and the way the delivery, like that Tony Martin does it. I really like the Ray Gillen version as well. Gillian. But yeah, and I would give it the album like, to me, 9 out of 10.
Cool. Excellent. Sorry to make you wait so long, John. He's never going to come back now. Like,
it's okay.
So never coming back.
Yeah, fuck this.
You know what we'll do, just to make it more fun? You're good. Yeah. We'll have you go now, and then I'll sneak in earlier if you don't want to go to the very last.
Or whatever. No, it doesn't matter. I don't care.
So you were hanging out with Rotting Christ last night, huh?
Yes. Yeah, they were in Greensboro, and I was, it was awesome because I only live like 10 minutes away from the club. So I stopped by there early in the day to get some quality time hanging out with them. They're great guys. We toured with them before, so it was nice to see them, reminisce a little bit, and just they're just stand-up guys, put on a great show too.
Did you hang out and see the show last night?
Yeah.
Bortnigar was there too, right?
Yeah, they played. It was my second time seeing Bortnigar, and it's different for sure. It's definitely different than I didn't know what to expect. I don't listen to the albums at all. I listened to one of them a while ago, but it was a good show. They were good. It was just not normally my cup of tea, but live it sounded pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, getting to Black Sabbath. This album to me is amazing album. When it first came out, I remember looking at the cover and just being like, I don't know if I want to buy this, and I didn't buy it, and I didn't really hear anything off it from anywhere. Like, no, it wasn't played on any of the college radio at the time. I just didn't hear nothing about it whatsoever. So I really just kind of blew it off. And eventually at some point I heard some stuff. I think I seen a video with Tony Martin doing what was it? It was off of Headless Cross. It was that song Headless Cross. And I was kind of just turned off by it at the time. It was just really, I was like, oh, this is kind of lame, And I was getting into heavier stuff at that time, more death metal and whatever, I was, I guess, well into it at that time. But anyway, when we toured in Brazil, like 2001 or 2002, and there was like a bunch. I just like stocked up on the Black Sabbath bootlegs. They had so many Black Sabbath bootlegs down there. I was in heaven, and it was super cheap too. And I seen one that had Ray Gillen, Black Sabbath, and I was like, it was probably like $3 or something. So I was like, I'll buy this, check it out. And man, it blew me away when I heard how awesome it was. I mean, the Ray Gillen I mean, I didn't hear the original version. I just heard the Ray Gillen version, and I just thought the vocals were just killing. Like he was just killing it on vocals, and I remembered Ray Gillen because the time I did see Black Sabbath was on the 7-Star tour,
Yeah.
and Ray Gillen was singing at Brendan Byrne Arena. So it was like, I don't remember him being that good live, but after hearing the,
Actually, John, I think I have a correction for you. I don't think I'm wrong, but that was the last night that Glenn Hughes sang. Was it?
Oh, you're right. You are right about that.
Ray Gillen.
It was
Ray
after
Gillen
that.
actually stepped in like on
Yeah.
I think they canceled
correct.
maybe a night or something, and they
Yeah.
brought Ray Gillen in. Yeah,
That's right. Cause
yeah, I was there.
yeah, the vocals were terrible that night. I remember.
Yeah,
I
Glenn
remember
was blown out. Can you believe
right,
like Glenn
yeah, I do
Hughes in
remember.
2022 sounds amazing, but back then
he
he was
sounded
all
like crap.
screwed up with drinking.
I heard
or
a
whatever
story
was
about
going on.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I one thing that was good about that show is that at least Tony Iommi played the riff. I think he played the riff to Zero the Hero. He didn't play the whole song, but he played that beginning riff. And I was just like, yes, that was enough for me. At least I got to hear something off Born Again live, even if it's one riff.
I
But
was
anyway-
lucky enough to see the Born Again tour at Brendan Byrne too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, with Ray Gillen, it's kind of crazy because I've become so attached to him singing with Sabbath that, yeah, it's just like every time I listen to that live, those live songs, I think they've had the live songs on that re-release of it too. But the bootleg had those live songs from the 7-Star tour, I think it was, and it sounded awesome. Him singing all those songs. I just thought I think he's an amazing vocalist. And I wasn't a Badland fan at the time. I like him more now just because his vocals are so good. It just made me really embrace that stuff more. And obviously Jakey Lee is phenomenal. But getting back to this was I hated it until I heard Ray Gillen sing those songs, and I was thinking to myself, maybe those albums are good. I just didn't like the vocals on it. I think at the time, I thought Tony Martin was too soft on the vocal approach, I think at times. And Ray Gillen had a little bit more, to me, at least, it sounded like more attack to it. I don't know if it was just the time I was ready for it or something, but I think that kind of situation, not with hearing the Ray Gillen thing first, but hearing like not getting into Eternal Idol or the Tony Martin stuff until later. Cause I think at the time when those came out, people just weren't ready for it or something, or hungry for it. It was more like it just came out and it was just, it kind of just landed flat for most people. But really when you listen back to it, it's an amazing. I mean, I would say I love the Ray Gillen version more than the Tony Martin version, but I love the Tony Martin version so much that they're almost equal. I would say if I have to rate them both, I'd give them both versions a 10 because I like listening to that album more than I like listening to a lot of the Ozzy albums. I mean, I was listening to it on Spotify, and after the album was over with, it went into an old Sabbath song, something off of like Paranoid or something, and I was just like, click, we're done listening to this. And it's retarded because I'm such a huge Sabbath fan, but I just can't hear those generics anymore. It's almost just like, come on, you're insulting my intelligence as a listener.
The same way.
And I love Sabbath, but man, it's tough to hear those.
And there's absolutely zero Tony Martin on Spotify other than Eternal Idol. The IRS stuff is not on there at all.
Yeah, it's just a bummer. But as far as my favorite song, I can't pick a favorite song because I think all the songs on this album are just amazing. When I listen to this album, I'm just like, hell yeah, it's just, I mean, I remember I turned on like all my friends to this album, and at this point now, it's like it ranks up there with some of the best stuff that Tony Iommi's ever done, in my opinion. I mean, of course, he's done so much great stuff. So you're talking about such high level, but to me, I think that this is a great album. I mean, it stands up there with all the Dio stuff. I think it's almost Born Again. Cool. It's just as good as some of the great Sabbath stuff like Sabotage and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath Volume 4.
Wow.
I like those songs just as much.
That's
I
amazing.
wish that I could see them play with Tony Martin. I had chances to see him throughout that time when Tony Martin was in the band, and I never went because I was so uninterested
Yeah,
in
you know,
seeing them.
they really didn't tour United States at all, hardly with Tony Martin. They toured on the Headless Cross tour, and they toured with Cross Purposes.
Yes.
I don't think they toured at all other than that in the States.
I don't think they toured for Eternal Idol. I don't think so.
Not in the States, no.
No,
It's-
they-
they
yeah.
never came, and it was a tragedy. You know, I liked it
But-
too. Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't like Cross Purposes at the time either. So
94. Yeah.
yeah, but they did. I think they toured with Morbid Angel of Motorhead.
Yeah,
but-
Ralph was there with me.
Yeah, I
Me and
think that.
Kira went together to that show.
Yeah, but I didn't go. I think I was on tour at the time. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah,
I would have
yeah.
went.
So,
I
yeah,
would have
like,
went
you
just to
didn't get
see
that many
Tony Iommi.
options, yeah.
Yeah,
I tell you, so
and that
So-
Headless Cross tour, I think only had a few shows anyway. I mean, I think
I saw that at the Civic Center in Poughkeepsie. It was them, Kingdom Come, and I forget who else.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
place wasn't even full.
yeah, I'm sure.
It wasn't. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's a great album, but it wasn't the right
I love
time.
that Cross too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, anyhow, cool. So you're on a 10 on this one down there, right? 10.
yeah, I go with 10. I have to.
Cool. So I guess it's my turn to talk about it. And yeah, I remember when this album first came out, I got like an advanced cassette and I was hanging out in Long Island with a couple of my friends. Probably going, I think we're doing Sundance, going to a metal show down there, and we're driving, stayed overnight, we're driving back. I said, hey, let's listen to Black Sabbath. And the people in the car with me absolutely hated it. They're like, the fuck is this? You know, because they had totally, a
That would've been
lot of
neat.
people abandoned Black Sabbath after Gillan was gone, and even, you know, Dio was gone, and they wanted nothing to do with it. In fact, I think they threw it out the window. They were that mad. I don't know if they threw it out the window, but they were like, take this, and took it from out of the thing. They didn't want me to play it. And I thought it was good, but I liked the Tony Martin era, and I did then, but I know it wasn't greatly received when it first came out in the States. I mean, people, I think like John, like what could I explain from the beginning? How many different people were on this album or were supposed to be on this album, and going with this drummer and that drummer. And like John said, you didn't know what was going on with Sabbath because it was changing singers every time around. And it was
The cover didn't help
process.
either.
What's that?
The cover didn't help either.
No, the cover did not help. It could have been a little more devilish or something, or I guess, you
Yeah,
know,
I like
the
Ralph's
Sabbath
idea better.
imagery. But I'm gonna go with The Shining for the songs. I like Lost Forever a lot too. I think Tony Martin totally kills it on that. I'm gonna go with Glory Ride, and there's not much more I can add to but the Glory Ride song, I think it's just great. And I love the Tony Martin era except for Forbidden. I think Forbidden is the worst Black Sabbath record, the worst one by far. And Chris Allo, if you're watching, don't be hating on Never Say Die. 'Cause I got Gaffney, I got John, and I got John here to back me up on this
That's
one.
right.
But anyhow, so yeah, I'm gonna give this an album a 9 out of a 10. I like it a lot. I'm not gonna go as far as McAtee and say I like it more than some of the Ozzy stuff, but I just, you know, it's like Deep Purple. There's like all these chapters of Sabbath, and I kind of judge them separately in my mind. So I guess we're gonna kick it back over to Ralph. We're gonna talk about some Dream Evil with Dio. And we'll get through this one a little bit here.
This album cover I love compared to the Black Sabbath. I don't
That's
know
a
why they
killer
changed
album
the
cover.
logo.
Yeah.
They changed the logo though. I didn't like that. They should have kept the original logo.
And it's the last appearance by Murray on an album cover, I heard.
Yep. And
Is
yeah,
it?
so 1987, you know, that's thrash is at its peak right then. So a lot of these albums that came out by the traditional heavy metal bands kind of just came and went. This was the first Dio album that didn't go gold or platinum at the time. The first 3 did. But I first seen him at the Civic Center on the Last in Line tour. It was supposed to be Twisted Sister opening up, but they canceled last minute. But I wore my shirt out back then from that, but I do have an original Holy Diver shirt.
Wow.
from 1983.
That's
Holy shit.
Cool. Nice.
That looks new still.
Yeah, it's in good shape. It's got a couple little holes on the top, but so I like this album a lot. Going back and listening to it all week, it's just so memorable. I'm gonna go for number 3. I was almost gonna go with Sunset Superman, but the chorus part I don't really like so much, but the rest of the song I really love. So I'm gonna go with Dream Evil, the title track, for number 3. Then the album opener, Night People, for number 1 or number 2. And I'm gonna go with Overlove for number 1.
Oh,
I like the 2 faster tracks on the album. But and I'll give this rating 8.5. If I only can pick one, I'll take this over Eternal Idol.
wow. You're buying Dio. He's buying Dio, everyone. Cool, cool. All right. So we're going to see what record John Gaffney's going to go home from the record shop with and talk about his Dio, Dream Evil.
All right, I was disappointed when Vivian Campbell left the band. I always liked Vivian Campbell a lot, and I really liked Sacred Heart. I know that, you know, some people feel that's kind of a weak album, but I always liked Sacred Heart. But I think Craig Goldie's playing is pretty strong on here. In fact, I think he brings a lot of fire to this record that I wish he would have brought maybe to Magica or Master of the Moon. He is a big Ritchie Blackmore fan. He seems to wear that on his sleeve. That's okay with me. I'm a huge Ritchie Blackmore fan also. I always felt the mix on this, maybe it's Craig Goldie's guitar tone, is a little bit harsh or bright or something for me. I never really enjoyed that. I also, in this, it always sounded to me like Dio's vocals are distorting on this record. And before we did this, I went and Googled that to see if it was just me hearing things in my head. And I found other people talking about the same thing, that the vocals are distorted on this album. It's like when Dio really cuts loose, it's just like, it just starts to clip and distort. It's strange. But I think that the songs are really good. I think it lacks some of the natural chemistry that Vivian, Jimmy Bain, and Vinny Appice had. I think that there was a writing chemistry with them, and of course with Ronnie, that was something that was really special, and it feels a tad bit off on this album for me. But all that said, there's still some really great songs on here. My 3 would be When a Woman Cries, number 2, Sunset Superman, and number 1 for me, which I absolutely love this song. It's maybe one of my top 10 Dio songs of all time, All the Fools Sailed Away. Fantastic song. I actually like the fact that Claude Schnell is a little bit more involved on this record, like that keyboard solo that he has in All the Fools Sailed Away. So I do like this record, probably give it an 8 out of 10. But if I got to walk out at a store, I'm walking out with Eternal Idol. Eternal Idol is just a little darker for me. It's a little, you know, I lean more Sabbath probably than I do Dio. So Eternal Idol for me, but this is still a really good record. Last Dio album that I would be fully invested in until Strange Highways and Angry Machines. I didn't care for Lock Up the Wolves. So, but you know, overall a good record, but Eternal Idol for me.
Cool. Thanks, John. Hey, Mr. Norway, you still awake over there? What time is it? Like almost time to get up, probably.
Yeah.
3 in the morning over there, right?
He's a trooper.
Yeah. Well, this album I haven't really listened to much. I'm listening to the early stuff and Strange Highways and stuff, and I started listening to this album, and I may piss some people off, but I didn't really like it that much. I feel it's very Deep Purple wannabe strangers, kind of Perfect Strangers on that vibe. Kind of want to cash in on that success of Perfect Strangers. I know it was just so much Ritchie Blackmore. It was like un-Dio for me. It's like I've been listening to Dio, and then suddenly now it's like it doesn't feel like Dio because it doesn't have that chemistry that John talked about. It's, I don't know, it didn't catch me that well, but it's a good album. All in all, it's a Dio album. I can't like say that it's all bad, but it's was not my favorites of the Dio albums at all. I prefer Sacred Heart much more over this. And but as for songs, I took number 3. I took Dream Evil. For number 2, I took Faces in the Window, and number 1, Naked in the Rain.
Okay.
So out of rating, I will give it a 5 out of 10.
All right.
And I will go with Black Sabbath for taking album home.
Excellent.
As for everybody else, be talking about Tony Martin favorite albums kind of thing. I'm maybe in the minority here, unless I like Tyr. I like that one best of the
It's a
Tony
good
Martin era.
album.
That's a great album.
Yeah, it's very underrated.
It is.
Mhm.
Sabbath Stones. Yeah.
Yes,
Cool.
On the
So
dominant.
so what album are you taking home with you?
Black Sabbath.
Vote for Sabbath. There. All right. So moving over to Mr. Tony Dio. Welcome back, brother.
Yeah, Dream Evil. At the time it came out, first time I heard it, I didn't really get into it that much. I guess I was just disappointed about the whole thing with Vivian leaving and so forth.
Yes.
Even though I had got the Intermission EP before that, and they introduced Craig Goldie with a new song on that with Time to Burn, and it was all in the magazines and so forth at the time. But I mean, it grew on me over time. I think it's really got some good songs on it. I love the album art. I mean, there's so many little hidden things in here, like the hand coming out from under the bed, and you've got the little green Ronnie elf, like from the first Elf album, up on the bed, you know, and then Murray in the window. But it's got some good songs on it, and it was the first time I saw Dio on tour, in concert, was on this tour, and he was touring with Megadeth, who were supporting So Far, So Good, So What, and Sabotage, Hall of the Mountain King. So I think, you know, we're talking about Chris. I think Chris Caffrey was on that tour as well, if I remember.
Yeah.
And great show. Dio had an incredible stage show with this cannon drum thing, and he had this mechanical spider that came down from the roof, and Craig Goldie battled the spider with his guitar,
Wow.
shooting lasers out of it. It was really over the top production and a stacked lineup of bands. So such a great show. But like I said, I do like this album, and I've been listening to it a whole lot over the last few years, and it's kind of grew on me a whole lot more, and rediscovering it. And so the songs I'm going to pick from it are Night People, the opening track. I love that. It's a great song. Title track, Dream Evil. I almost went with Sunset Superman because the lyrics and just the way his delivery vocally on that is so good. But it's like Ralph said, the chorus kind of leaves you hanging. It's almost like he could have wrote a better chorus for that song, because it's the rest of it, the verses and the riff is just great. It's just fantastic. But my number one song on there is going to be Over Love. I always thought Craig Goldie's little kind of plucking intro was very Blackmore-like. It sounded a lot like Richie Blackmore, something he would have came up with. So I always dug that song, and it's just a fast-paced song as well. And it's, you know, probably to me, Dream Evil was one of the last great Dio albums, because he kind of went into the more like what Martin Popoff calls his plotting era, where everything was slow and kind of driving after that. I mean, there's a few fast ones on Lock Up the Wolves and Strange Highways, but it definitely took a turn. It got darker and just more like doomier, I guess, over the years. His albums did. So I'll give this album 8 out of 10. And of course, if I'm going to pick one out of the store, I would have picked the Dio album. That's what I would have bought between the two.
Okay.
Cool. Did want to show you right fast. I got a couple of singles from it. I've got this is the Could Have Been a Dreamer single.
Oh yeah.
I have a couple of white label promos. One is for All the Fools Sailed Away, and one is for When a Woman Cries, that they released the radio. So those are kind of cool.
Excellent. So we got. Do I sound all right? Because I sound like sound like the Dio monster when I'm in my earpiece.
You are like the Dio monster.
I am.
You're Murray.
I like. I hear in the background, but cool. So hey, it's 2-2 right now.
Let me. I was talking about a while ago about the concert. I pulled a Ralph. I almost forgot. I have the T-shirt still from the tour.
Oh wow,
tour shirt.
That's a cool
one of the last remaining vintage concert shirts that I have. It's actually the North American tour. It's got the green Dio elf on the back.
That's probably worth about $20.
At least.
Yeah, I saw the offshoot of that tour. At the Chance in Poughkeepsie with Sabotage and Megadeth, and I wish I would have put. If I would have chatted with you, I would have definitely invited Chris. But this show's running along already, so if Chris was here, it would be a 2-hour show.
I'm sure he's got some good stories from that tour.
Oh, I'm sure. I'll have to try to loop him back in. I haven't had him on in a while, but
I remember
cool.
I remember hearing Dave Mustaine tell a story about when the first day of that tour, they met Ronnie and they were like really nervous about meeting him, and they were like talking to him, and Ronnie's like, well, we're gonna stay here and jerk each other off, or we're gonna go smoke a joint.
That's a good one. All right, so it's 2-2. It's a neck-to-neck here battle with Black Sabbath and Dio. So going down to Louisiana, see Miles again. Miles of medals here.
Yeah, so I brought out the cassette version. The cassette artwork got a little bit more. It's got like this Spectre thing in the doorway right here.
It does have a whole extra length there.
Always liked how it had that little bit of extra going on with it. But growing up, I was a huge Dio fan, and I made my dad buy me the greatest hits when I was a kid. I used to love, Dio so much. And actually the first song I ever heard off of Dream Evil is when I was a kid and I was watching, VH1 Classic or whatever, and All the Fools Sailed Away music video came on, and I just thought it was so cool. And I was so upset because that greatest hits CD that my dad bought for me didn't have that song on there. And I was so disappointed. But this album I really do enjoy, but over the years it's kind of went down a little bit for me. I still enjoyed the album a lot, even when COVID first hit and we were sitting at home not doing nothing. So what better else to do but to listen to music? Dream Evil was actually, I just remember this, that Dream Evil was the first album out of my marathon of listening to music. It was the first album I listened to. And that was when I kind of, didn't like it as much as I used to. I used to think that this album was real good, but I kind of picked some other albums a little bit over this one. I think Craig Goldie sounds good on guitars on here. I think he does a real good job on here. That Ronnie cutting in and out thing, that's crazy, because I listened to this album a lot this week and I never noticed that. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that. But I thought some of the songs were real good on here, but some of the songs I just fell out in love with. But if I had to pick 3 songs on here, I would number 3 would be I Could Have Been a Dreamer. Number 2, I'm gonna put Sunset Superman, and like everybody said, the chorus on there kind of leaves you hanging a little bit. I wish it could have been a little bit different. But number 1 is gonna be All the Fools Sailed Away. And I always remember that night I was laying in bed and that music video came on, and I just thought it was so cool, and being so disappointed that it wasn't on my greatest hits. But I got all the Dio albums now, so shit, I can listen to it whenever. But out of the 2 albums, I'm going with Eternal Idol. This album here is just so damn good. It ranks high up there with the Black Sabbath albums for me. And I know everybody's talking about the cover, how it's garbage. I don't like the cover neither, but the crazy thing is that they couldn't get the rights to the statue that they were trying to use. So these are actually 2 models, and they sprayed them with gold spray paint. They actually had to go to the hospital for the toxicity.
Oh yeah,
because of the toxic paint and shit. So that just goes to show you how shitty this album cover is. Put 2 people in the hospital. But the logo change right here, I always did like that logo right there. Not as good as the classic Sabbath one, but I like that logo. But yeah, Eternal Idol, definitely.
All right, so cool.
There's the famous story of them Bill Ward passing out back in the day, and they painted him gold, and he had to go to the hospital because his skin couldn't breathe, and
Yeah,
You-
you think they would have learned, huh? And putting more.
Yeah, I don't know how that's a rough album cover for sure. Cool. Go back over to the vinyl destination with Ryan.
All right. So Dream Evil. I'll say right off the bat, I was more of a Dio fan when I was younger than I am now. He was one of the first artists I really loved. I don't like him quite as much as I did then. I'm more of a fan of like Rainbow at this point and stuff that he did with Black Sabbath.
Oh, me too.
Than I am of his solo career. Tremendous vocalist, and I think his solo career has a lot of good stuff. But there's only a few albums that I'd say are like really consistently good albums for me. A lot of them are kind of hit or miss for me when I go back and listen to them now. This happens to be one of the albums that I really like by Dio, though. It's probably my second favorite behind Holy Diver, because I mean, that's the all-time classic. There's no denying it for me. I think that it's not a perfect album, but it's really, really good. First off, I think the production's pretty bad on it, like the mix and stuff. It sounds pretty weak, especially when you put it up next to this Black Sabbath album, because I think that Eternal Idol is actually a really good sounding album. So I think that's one thing that would be in Black Sabbath's favor. But for me, I liked a lot of the songwriting more on this album than the Black Sabbath album. I think that the Black Sabbath album has some better songs on it. Like I think Eternal Idol, the song is better than anything that's on this album. And then a couple others I would say probably the same, but consistently I could go and listen to this one more. I think that, you know, there's a lot of classics on here like Night People, Dream Evil. I do agree about the chorus on Sunset Superman. It's really bad actually, but I think it's a good song still. All the Fools Sailed Away is the first song that I heard on this album growing up too. My dad put it on my little iPod shuffle when I was a kid, and I was just mesmerized by the way that keyboard solo went in the Craig Goldie's guitar solo. I thought that was like the coolest shit in the entire world, and still now I love that. And you know, I think that side 2 has some really good stuff too, like Naked in the Rain, Over Love. I could have been a dreamer. I'm not huge on Faces in the Window, but it's still okay. And then When a Woman Cries, I like quite a bit too. If I had to do my top 3 tracks on here, my number 3 I would say is probably I Could Have Been a Dreamer. I love that chorus, and I love the verse too. It's super catchy, the melodies and stuff, and I think it's just a cool song. My number 2 is going to be Dream Evil. I think that's a fantastic track, especially that chorus. Awesome stuff there. It's iconic Dio. And then my number 1 is going to be All the Fools Sailed Away. It's the song I have the most history with on this album. I love that guitar solo and the keyboard solo. I think it's also one of Dio's best vocal performances in his solo career, and one of his best overall too. I think it's emotional. It's a real triumphant song. It still rocks. Those verses are pretty heavy. It's just an awesome song. And if I had to give this album a rating, I would probably say like an 8 out of 10. And it's going to be my album that I would choose of the 2. I think that it was close for me, but I would probably rather go back and listen to the Dio album than the Black Sabbath one. Even though I'm more of a Black Sabbath fan typically.
Tell you what, this is a hell of a battle. It's going back and forth. Back and forth. So it's 3-3. And moving over. Thanks. It's a tie going into Christian right now. And we'll try to speed it up a little bit because we are running right low. What the hell? We're all having fun. Hopefully everybody's watching on TV land.
Yep. So anyway, coming on to Dream Evil now from Dio. like I was saying earlier, talking about Black Sabbath, I kind of first discovered Dio from getting the Heaven and Hell album, and then from there eventually discovering the Holy Diver, and then the Rainbow stuff and all that. And then of course we come to this album here. It's this is probably my second favorite Dio album after Holy Diver.
Wow.
I like the ones that came before it. I think it was a step up from the album before it, Sacred Heart, even though I think that one's pretty good. The last couple tracks on that one I'm not too keen on. But I mean, this one right here, you got that that kind of bluesy type of intro to Overlove. I mean, you got All the Fools Sailed Away, epic song. I like the last track, When a Woman Cries, where when Dio sings When a Woman Cries and the keyboard kind of comes in and almost kind of like echoes what he's saying. It just, I don't know, something about it just sounds great. So if I'm going to pick my three favorite off of this one, I think number three probably going to be Faces in the Window. I don't know, I love that song. It gets stuck in my head all the time. Next up, of course, would be Sunset Superman. I just love the kind of Vinny's drumming on that, the plotting on it. And there's a video on YouTube. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but someone took like concert footage and spliced it with the original Christopher Reeve Superman movie.
Oh,
I mean, it's actually pretty cool, I think. I mean, I was, fan of that movie, as a little kid. So it kind of, takes you back a little bit. And then number one is going to be the opening track, Night People. I love the way the keyboards just kind of creepily come in right there, and then it just gets really heavy and fast.
cool.
But if I'm going to, like he was saying with the production on it, it's a little bit like with Holy Diver, the production on it is definitely a little bit beefier. And I think some of the songs on there are like a little bit better. So that's why it's probably for me, my favorite Dio, which I think it is for probably most people, but this one just creeps in like right behind there. So with that, I gotta put Dream Evil over the Eternal Idol. Like Eternal Idol, but I don't know. Dream Evil, I gotta go with that one. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Easily.
Cool.
So.
Dio is neck to neck, takes the lead going. He's leading and he's heading into Vancouver. What's going to happen up there?
All right, Dream Evil. And no disrespect to John Gaffney, because I really like him and I really like what he says about, and he knows Black Sabbath more than I do, but like Sacred Heart really like killed my love of Dio, and I think because at the time I was busy listening to like Slayer Chemical Warfare or like Sodom Blasphemer. So like, of course, I wanted Dio to keep getting more heavier. And this one was definitely more commercial and more like poppy to my ears at the time. But I thought that with Dream Evil, he went back a little bit more to the Holy Diver and Last in Line sound. There's, like, and for me, the song I love on this album has always been the same. And I listened to it today just because of the episode, and Dream Evil will always be number 3. Night People will always be number 1, and Overlove will always be sorry. What did I say? Dream Evil number 3, Night People number 2, and Overlove number 1. Okay. I always have this mic in my truck. Like I like to drive fast, and I always have like Stand Up and Shout, High Speed at Night, and Overlove going like back to back, and just freaking driving. I love it so much. So I think for me, for this album, I'll probably give it like, and I think because Ronnie James Dio produced it, that's probably why, like, it, I don't know, sometimes like artists think that I'll produce my own album and I know how to make it amazing. But I think maybe that's why, like, yeah, that's maybe why, like, the Sunset Superman, like, everybody's like, man, I can hear what it could have been and it's just not going there. And that somebody needed like to be in the studio and say like, hey, Ronnie, dude, no, you can do better.
Exactly.
Just do it again. Try something else. I don't care, right? But so I will choose Eternal Idol over even though I think like Overlove and Night People, I like those songs almost more than some songs on Eternal Idol, just because of the title track of Eternal Idol and the overall song selection. I will go with Eternal Idol, but like it's a great album, and definitely like it's just as good as just a Holy Diver, like, well, not as good, but in there, and then Last in Line for me. But I'm picking. I just want John McEntee to have to like select who's the winner tonight. So like now it's 4-4, right?
No, Sabbath is
Yeah,
ahead now,
well,
right?
well, yeah, then I'm
Then
involved
then
still,
you have
too.
to like, oh yeah, that's
Oh, yeah,
true.
he'll screw it
It
up.
could end up,
Oh,
yeah, it could end up,
Right.
but who knows where
This
it's
is
gonna
like Super
go here.
Bowl.
It is,
Cool.
it
My
is
next-
Mr. McEntee's
okay.
turn.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I fell asleep here.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just teasing you. Anyway, what are we thinking? As far as Dream Evil, well, if you would have asked me when it first came out, I would have just been like, totally no way. This is so such lame Dio. It's unbelievable. But I was also just not on that radar, and I didn't like either album. Dream Evil or the Black Sabbath one, Eternal Idol at the time. I mean, I didn't even listen to Eternal Idol, and I didn't like it, I guess, to be fair. But I just didn't pay attention to either of those bands. I don't even remember where I heard some of the songs, but I just heard some of it, and I was just kind of like, it just didn't hit me. I really didn't even. I didn't even really like. I went back around 2001 or 2 and kind of started really. I guess after Angry Machine came out, so that was actually 98 or something like that. Around then, I started kind of going back into the Dio catalog a little bit and checking it out, and I still didn't really like this album that much. And then it wasn't really until Dio passed away and I really dug into his catalog and just listened to a lot of his stuff. And I actually listened to it almost just like on shuffle with everything mixed together. And I realized that I do like some of the songs on the album, but just in general, I just think the production it's just wimpy for a Dio album. I think a lot of it sounds soft. The keyboards, like the way it starts off, for a metalhead, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear those keyboards doing a little doot, doot, doot. It's like, no. The song itself is good, but that intro, you just automatically, like, was it Night People? You automatically want to be like, nah, this is, I don't even want to listen to this album, because if it starts off like that, if that's like the thing that's supposed to hook you into it, it's like we're just on different pages, and it kills me to say that because I love Dio so much and I'm such a fan of Dio's material, but there's this album and Lock Up the Wolves and Angry Machine. Those 3 are just low on my list compared to the other stuff that he's done. He's just done so much great stuff. To put out what I consider a mediocre album is just, I don't know, for someone of his talent is unacceptable, in my opinion. He's just too good for that. So I would say if I had to pick songs that 3 top favorites, that's a tough one. I think the song Dream Evil is good. That song's good. I think the Overlove is a good one. It's not bad. All the Fools Sail Away is probably my favorite song off the album. I just like the epic sound to it. It seems like that song has a little more substance to it overall as a good song. It kind of seems like most of the songs off the album almost are in a mold of this like generic stuff that it's just like, okay, it's a good, these are good Dio songs, but they're not amazing Dio songs in my opinion. But for me, it's like the first 2 and like what was it? Strange Highways are like my favorite ones out of them. Strange Highways is actually one of their yeah, it's ridiculous how underrated that one is actually, but just the time it came out. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Craig Goldie. I think he's a great guitar player. If I remember correctly, I think I seen him tour for the album before, for the Sacred Heart tour. I think he did the tour. I seen him. I definitely did not see him on Dream Evil at tour. So it had to have been like maybe the second leg of the
I don't know.
Yeah, he did. It was Vivian Campbell did the first leg of
Yeah.
Okay.
Sacred Heart, and then Craig Goldie came in
yeah.
halfway through
So
it. So.
Yeah, I remember seeing Craig Goldie. I remember, I mean, I seen him with Vivian Campbell, but I can't remember if it was for Sacred Heart or not. But I know I see Craig Goldie, and that was the only time I think I've seen him play. Besides, well, what was it? He was in Rough Cut, wasn't he? Or
Yeah.
I seen him with Rough Cut once. But anyway, as far as if I have to rate this album, and I love Dio. I mean, he's the man, you know. I mean, but I have to give it compared to his catalog, it's really low. It's probably like, you know, a 3 or something. But if I compare it just to like metal in general, I'll be nice and give it a 6 because Dio is the man, you know. But that's a tough one. And if back then in what was this? Was this 86? Is it 87?
Yeah, 87.
87. In 87, I would have just picked up a different album, and neither of these two would have got, you know, probably Sacrifice or something. But
if it's, let's say you're going to my record store today and you're going to buy one.
It was Eternal Idol. No, I mean, I would buy Eternal Idol before this one, even if I already had Eternal Idol. I would just buy a second backup.
There you go.
Before buying this one.
So Sabbath is taking the lead.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sabbath. The thing is, for me, Eternal Idol is a monstrous of an album. Like, you know, obviously one of my favorite Sabbath albums, really. And you know, this is like low on the spectrum of great Dio albums. You know, it's a no-brainer.
So I guess this has worked out perfectly if we scripted it, because I can make it a tie or I can give Sabbath the win. Right?
Yeah, well, now's your time to see, you know, if you're a kid or a man.
Well, I got to talk about the Dio album, and I agree with John McAtee a little bit about this record. It wasn't, I liked it, I think, a lot, because I played it a ton in my store when it came out, and I liked it, but it wasn't like, you know, I like Dio's material with Rainbow and Sabbath much better than his solo stuff, other than maybe Holy Diver. But this album, to me, I would probably give like a 7. I find it a little too commercial for me, and at that time, I'll agree with John, and you know, much what I said about Eternal Idol with my friends I was hanging out with, and we were listening to Slayer, and we were listening to Metallica. We got into the heavier stuff, and we were kind of like, you know, we were hoping for these albums to be a little heavier at the time, I think, in that time period. But looking back on it, I would say the 3 songs that I would like the best are Night People, the Dream Evil song, and I will go with All the Fools Sail Away also, and I'll probably give the album about a 6 or a 7. But if I'm buying a record, it's going to be Black Sabbath. So I'm going to cement Black Sabbath with the victory. Sunset Superman, listening to on the headphones. I've been listening to these albums a lot this week. Is it just my brain? Does it sound like We Will Rock You at times?
It does a little bit, yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. I got that Queen thing out. I'm like, I don't know.
To me, a lot of the songs on the Dio album is just, they're all just missing a little bit of pizzazz. Like they could have jammed it out more, like at rehearsal or something, or just had a little more input. It's like most of them are almost there, but just not quite there, you know.
That's Vivian Campbell.
If this was
yeah, I mean, Vivian Campbell was great.
And they said when Vivian was in the band, they used to write all together in the room. When Craig Goldie came in, Craig would go home, work on stuff, then come back. So they lost that element of all of them in a room jamming and feeding off of each other. They said that wasn't there when Goldie was in the band.
It's like with both of these albums, you know, both bands were going through so much changes as they were, you know, especially Sabbath with this. But I thought it was an interesting episode. It ran a little long, but I think we had quite the discussion tonight, and it was a lot of fun. So anybody that's watching, and please mention your favorite of the two albums in the comments, and hope everyone enjoyed the episode. We'll be back next week with another topic, and we got John McAtee doing the North Carolina Chainsaw Massacre coming up first weekend of June. Don't forget about that. And maybe John, just quickly fill us in on that.
Yeah, we're doing the Carolina Chainsaw Massacre, like you said, and it's June 3rd and 4th, and we have a whole bunch of killer bands on. You could check out info to find more about it. We have some horror guests and stuff, and besides that, we're also touring Europe in July, and the US with Goat Whore in August, and
awesome,
keeping busy. So it's nice to play some metal, you know. Hell
it's
yeah.
great to have you back on the road, and it's great to have you sneak in and do an episode once in a while. It's awesome to have you back in the captain's seat down there.
Y'all gonna be in New Orleans, huh?
Yep, last day of the tour.
I'm gonna be there.
Miles will be there.
That's good. Gotta get myself some Cajun food.
And Sasquatch is coming to New York City in June. He's going to be part of the Day of Armageddon, right?
Rage of Armageddon.
I'm sorry, I got it mixed up. Rage of Armageddon. I already just 6 or 7. It's 7, right? Or is it 6?
Yeah. Well, also coming to New Orleans in September, so I can go check out my buddy Miles.
Wow, wow.
Awesome.
So that's awesome.
Check
So
me out.
I hope everyone enjoyed the episode tonight, and we will be back again soon. In the meantime, try to hit like and subscribe to the channel if you like what we're doing. Sitting around talking about metal and classic rock and death metal and all the good stuff. So stay heavy, guys.
Hell yeah.